Religion is a fiction, religion is a lie, a God created by humans, and the questions towards the truth. Part 1. God was born from human fear. God was born from human fear. Have you ever looked at the stars in the night sky and thought, who made this? Or have you ever asked, where do I go after I die? Humanity, unable to find the answer to this question on its own, created gods instead. To ancient people, lightning was the arrow of the gods, and disease was the punishment of evil spirits. In other words, religion began as an act of naming the unknown. Then everyone, what happens to the realm of the divine as our ignorance decreases? Yes, that's correct. The realm of the divine has gradually diminished. This is the moment when science began. The world created by God versus the world discovered by humans. There is a religion that claims the Earth was created 6,000 years ago. But what does science say? According to radiocarbon dating, the age of the Earth is about 4.54 billion years. This one fact alone makes the creation story of the Bible no longer true. So which is more trustworthy, the Word of God or proven science? Most people now choose evidence-based explanations. Ultimately, the existence of God is revealed to be merely a hypothesis that fills the absence of explanation. Has history carried out in the name of God saved people, or has it dominated them? Let's think of medieval Europe. The Pope claimed to be God's representative, sold indulgences and waged the Crusades, taking countless lives. Korean temples, too, lost their original spirit of practice as they gained wealth and power in the late Joseon period. If you saw this, would you believe that God must have wanted it? This question makes us uncomfortable, but it leads to an important insight. Religion was the language of power disguised as truth. The God in the human heart. Have you ever thought about why you believe in God? Is it because God truly exists, or is it because we need Him? The psychologist Freud said, God is a projection of the Father. When we are afraid and lonely, we imagine an invisible protector. The sociologist Durkheim interpreted it this way as well. Humans have named the great force of society, and that name is God. In other words, God is not in the sky, but in the minds of humans and within the structure of society. Then can humans experience God even if God does not actually exist? That's right. God was merely a concept and a symbol, not a reality. Part 2. The limits of religion, revealed by science and history. The challenge of science. You've heard the saying, science has encroached on God's domain, right? However, the truth is quite the opposite. As science has advanced, the unknown realm that we once referred to in the name of God has disappeared. The Big Bang Theory shows that the beginning of the universe was not a divine creation, but a physical explosion and expansion. Life was not designed, but was born through a process of evolution over 400 million years. Even human consciousness is explained by electrical signals in the brain. Then, let me ask you here, if everything can be explained without the need for God, is there still a reason for God to exist? The conflict between God and truth. How did religion react when humans became wiser than God? A representative example is the trial of Galileo. He claimed that the Earth revolves around the Sun, but the Vatican labeled this as heresy. The Word of God has suppressed the truth before evidence. What does this incident mean for us today? It is the lesson that faith cannot overcome truth. As another example, during the colonial era, religion justified invasion under the name of civilization. The cross and the sword moved together, and faith became the weapon of the strong. The truth of nature shown by evolution. Have you ever believed that humans were created in the image of God? However, science says we are animals that share 98% of our genes with chimpanzees. Biolinguistics and genetics show gene mutations and natural selection instead of the hand of God. This does not discourage us, isn't it rather wondrous? Life as complex as this could not have been designed by God. This is the true miracle. The final question to the audience. Now, I will ask one last question: if there is no God, where do morality, love, and meaning come from? The answer is already within you. The consciousness of humans who think and choose for themselves, rather than relying on a deity, is the source of all meaning. Morality is not an external command, but rather a product of empathy and reason. Conclusion: a world without God, yet a more meaningful world. What we talked about today is not a declaration to deny God, but a declaration to move towards freedom beyond fiction. The reason God must disappear is not out of hatred, but for growth. Will you believe in the truth, or will you continue to cling to the familiar lies? That question is the first step to growing as a true human in a world created by religion. 1. The existence of God cannot be proven by science, but doesn't science also fail to prove the absence of God? That's right. Science does not directly prove non-existence. However, science is a system for testing hypotheses. For thousands of years, not a single one of the countless religious claims, prophecies, miracles, creationism has been verified. Faith without evidence is not a matter of possibility, but a matter of trust. Believing in a God without evidence is not scientific caution, but merely a projection of human anxiety. 2. Isn't religion what created human morality and order? Wouldn't society become chaotic without faith? Morality has preceded religion. Ancient humans maintained their communities through cooperation and empathy, even before the emergence of faith. The fact that today's atheist countries, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, have the lowest crime rates in the world is evidence of this. In other words, morality is not a gift from God, but a product of rational coexistence. 3. Many people find comfort thanks to religion. Why is it bad, even if it's fictional? There is no reason for psychological comfort itself to be bad. But the problem arises when fiction is packaged as truth. False comfort can halt thinking and sometimes serve as a basis for violence or exclusion. True comfort comes not from the false sense of security, but from the strength to accept the truth. 4. Many people have experienced miracles, but do you say that is all an illusion? The truthfulness and factuality of an experience are different. Psychologically, humans interpret strong experiences as divine phenomena due to confirmation bias, group suggestion, and the brain's dopamine response. In fact, many miraculous events have been revealed to be due to natural causes, medical recovery, or recording errors after investigation. The experience may have been real for the individual, but it is not evidence in the objective world. 5. I believe that religion makes people good. Doesn't not believing in God lead to selfishness? Historically, religious people have not always been good. Crusades, religious trials, and Islamic militant groups have all committed violence in the name of God. In contrast, secular humanitarian movements, such as the Red Cross, humanitarian NGOs, and medical volunteer organizations, are based on empathy and reason rather than faith. Goodness is not the result of faith, but an expression of humanity. 6. Almost all societies in human history have had religion. If it's that universal, isn't there some fundamental reason behind it? The fact that it is universal does not guarantee truth. Once, all of humanity believed that the earth was flat. Universality only signifies a psychological need, not a logical truth. The universality of religion demonstrates the magnitude of the power of falsehoods, not evidence of truth. 7. If we eliminate religion, won't humanity lose its meaning? Meaning is not given by God, but created by humans. Philosophy, art, love, scientific inquiry, all of these provide meaning even without religion. Feeling that meaning disappears without God is merely a psychological anxiety stemming from the loss of familiarity. Rather, when humans can create meaning for themselves without a God, they become freer. 8. So do you think religion has no value in human history or culture? Cultural value and truth claims are different. Religion has had a significant impact on the formation of art, music, architecture, and morality that must be acknowledged. However, the issues of cultural influence and authenticity are separate. Just as we regard Greek mythology as fiction while respecting its artistic value, religion is also a subject of critical appreciation rather than an object of absolute faith. 9. Isn't atheism a kind of belief? It's the belief that there is no God. Atheism is not the belief in no God, but rather an attitude that demands evidence for the claim of God's existence. Since the claim that God exists is special, the burden of proof lies with the claimant. If believing that there is no God is a belief, then it is a form of belief similar to believing that Santa Claus does not exist. In other words, atheism is not a belief, but a criterion for verification. 10. Not all religions are bad. There are also pure believers. Why criticize them all together? That is a valid point. Not every individual who believes in a religion is wrong. The target of criticism is not the believers, but the religious systems that impose falsehoods as truths.
Pure faith can be respected as a personal belief, but it becomes problematic when that belief dominates social standards, education, law, and science. In other words, we are not attacking faith, but criticizing the structure that wraps fiction as truth.